Everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Get Wealth Podcast. I'm your host, Brendan Wiersma. Today I'm here with Jon Schoeller, or also known as the Frugal Investor. So kind of says it in the name, expert in finance. You do some real estate investing, private lending. So I'm really excited to kind of pick your brain because a lot of the stuff that you are actively doing is kind of what I want to start doing. And I'm trying to learn as much as possible. So thanks for coming on the show today, man.
I appreciate you having me on.
So when did you start being conscious of finances? Because it seems like finance is something that everyone kind of knows is there, but they may make money in their job and don't necessarily take it as seriously. You've obviously, based on your social media and from what I've seen from you, been very adamant about investing, and you're getting into real estate. When did that start for you?
So I think it first struck a chord in me, probably around 20, 21 years old. It was a combination of a few things. I had a good friend growing up, and he was kind of in the extreme of things. He was saving every dollar, and he would never spend money when we went out. We always called him cheap and picked on him. His name's Drew. He's still a great friend of mine, best friend. And when we graduated, this kid had like $80,000 saved up, and we were all like, keep in mind, we're like 18, $80,000 might as well be 10 million, right?
Wow.
So we were like, how did you do that? And you would drop a penny on the floor and he'd pick it up. And that's how cheap he was. And I was like, well, I don't even have 1,000. I was like, so I'm gonna stop picking on him and I'm gonna start saving. So that's how it started. I started being probably cheap. I wasn't frugal then. I was just cheap. I was unscrewing light bulbs, unplugging the toaster. And I was kind of doing that. And then around the same time, a friend of mine, Miles, he sent me this link and said, hey man, you should watch this. And there's a guy, I don't even know if he's still around, but his name was Eben Pagan. And it was like a all weekend seminar, and he downloaded it off LimeWire. He said people pay $10,000 to go to the seminar. And just because I was cheap, I watched it because I was like, hey, I just got this for free. The value is $10,000. I'm going to watch it. And I stayed up several nights in a row, just listening to this thing. And he started talking about wants versus needs. And that's what really stuck with me from him. It was just talking about like, you need to really define that for yourself before you really take grasp of your financial, your literacy and everything, like your financial future. And you need to divide up wants versus needs. And when that hit for me, I started looking at everything like that. Before I spend any money, is this something I want or something I need? And then gradually, I started saving money. And then all of a sudden you have some money. And naturally you start looking like, okay, well, how do you make this money move faster? And if you go to Google and you say, what's the best thing to invest your money in? Real estate's going to come up almost every time, over and over and over again, right? Of course, crypto is going to be hot right now, but throughout history, it's been real estate. And so I started watching Bigger Pockets, and I started reading the books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I started really getting into it and following Brandon Turner, who's the host of Bigger Pockets, and he's wrote some books. And like I said, I can run with this, but that's kind of what got me interested. And then I diligently learned as much as I probably could. I just give me all the knowledge I could. And I probably researched and learned for too long before taking action, but no regrets now.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's a great kind of direction to go with this, because I think that's usually how it goes. Someone starts out and they don't really know everything. They think, oh, well, maybe I should pay more attention to this. And that kind of led you down this path to where you are now. And you mentioned earlier, there's that difference between cheap and frugal. Where does that change for you? And like, what does that mean to you?
So I would think like cheap is just saving just to save, and frugal saving with a purpose. So you have a defined reason why you're saving that money. You have a goal in mind for what that money is going to do for you in your future. Being cheap is just saving with no real goal or way to get away from that, because you're usually cheap because you have to be, or because your resources aren't there, or you're scared, right? And that's fine. It's almost an okay way to start. I don't even mind it from the beginning, but you don't want to be stuck in cheap, because then you're going to miss out on a lot of experiences in life. So a lot of people still may even call me cheap to this day, because of how my wife and I live. We have, I don't want to quote the song, but we have everything we want and nothing that we don't, right? So we get rid of all the stuff that holds us back, or things that will depreciate quickly, that will just be a temporary amount of fun. And we take that money and we put it into things that, like memories and traveling. We've probably spent well over $100,000 just traveling, right? So I wouldn't really call that cheap, That's just where we spend our money. I don't have a Ferrari. I could have a Ferrari. I don't have a Ferrari because it's hard for me to reason that. It's hard for me to say, okay, here goes $200,000 in about a month and a half. It's going to be worth 160. We're not going to do the opposite with real estate. You can buy a house for $200,000, flip it. Now it's worth 240, 260, right? And so it's really hard for me to do that. And so I think it's just intentional saving versus just saving just to save.
Yeah. And like saving intentionally, that goes beyond putting a certain amount in your bank account for however long, right? Because saving almost, if you're just taking cash and putting it in a drawer, it's not very effective, right? You've obviously been able to multiply and grow your money. What does saving look like for you? Is it's buying houses? Is it investing it in the stock market? How does that look like?
Yeah. So, I mean, you can't. So there used to be a thing, you can't save your way to $1 million. Well, that's not true. If you make it $200,000 a year and you're cheap, you can save your way to $1 million pretty quickly. But there's a much faster way to do it, right? And it's investing your money. So we save as much money as we can on things that we buy, even travel or wherever, to an extent, right? So that we keep our happiness there. We keep what we want to do there, but we just make sure we get the best deal possible, right? We shop around and all that money is intentionally saved to turn around and invest it, right? We no longer just putting it away in the bank account, The faster we have that money though, the more capital we have, the more money we can deploy, and the more money we can deploy, the faster it comes back to us. Because every dollar is like a little soldier out there working for you, right? Or a little employee out there working for you. So the more dollars you have, and let's say on average, you can get 8%. For every dollar you have, it can make you 8 cents every year. Okay. So that doesn't sound like a lot, but if I gave you $1 million, now it's $80,000 a year. Right. So that's why you have to have a reason to save that money.
Yeah, that's great. So what does it look like for you now? Because you're an active investor and is that kind of like your active income almost, is investing in real estate, or what does your life look like?
Yeah. So my wife and I, we own 5 rentals now. So, and those are paid for in cash. So those all cash flow nicely. In fact, we're playing a game with one. We bought one for 100,000 cash, and it was only a year and 5 months ago. And that account, we don't use it. We don't touch it. It carries itself. And that account's at almost 34,000 now. So in a year and a half, we got back 1/3 of our investment already. So if everything stands true and doesn't need any major repairs, at about the 3.5, 4 year mark, we should have all of our money back out. And a lot of people are saying, why don't you just refinance and get your money out? Because the asset's probably worth 150. And we could, but then you're going to pay percentage. So let's say I pull out that 100,000, I'm going to pay the bank, albeit a small percent, 4 to 5%. Here's what I tell people. You need to refinance with a purpose. If you get the money back out, where are you going to put it? I don't need it right now. I have enough other cash working that I haven't needed that other 100 grand out of that investment property. So if you're just going to refinance just to refinance and do nothing with the cash or go spend it, I don't call that a smart move. So we have our rental properties, and then obviously we actively invest through my company, A&M Investments, with my 2 partners, Andrew and Steve. And we carry anywhere from 3 to, I think the most we've had out is 6 houses at a time. So we invest in those, and then we get 1/3 of the profit back on those. So that's our active passive investments, because also work in the company on that. But I think call that passive, because I also make my salary with my partners through the company. So I think that would be the active portion of it. My wife and I's investment through the company would be considered passive, I think.
Yeah, no, it's kind of like this weird blurred line when you're not working a 9-to-5 job for somebody else, right? You kind of create your own life, and all of it's making money somehow, whether it's actually fixing up a house and painting the walls, or just gaining passive income from your rental properties.
Right.
Is your ultimate goal to just move completely towards the passive side of things, or do you think you'll always have your hands in some sort of a project?
So I wish my mind would allow this. I semi-retired. I could have retired when I sold my moving company, and my wife started travel nursing, and we moved to California, and we lived there for about 9 months. And then we lived in Maui for 3 months. And when we got to Maui, I've never been more depressed in my life. I tell the story a lot, but I got to have something to do. It wasn't a financial thing for us. We could have been, we were fine financially, but we probably weren't where we'd want to be. There's a big difference between need and want, right? And so we kept seeing ourselves saving stuff, but really bigger than that, bigger than the financial reason for needing something to do was I need something to do. So yes, I will always work in some type of capacity. I mean, if you see how many irons I have in the fire now, I just know myself. But the goal is to get more intentional with that work, with passion, one of the things I'm passionate about, and care almost nothing about the money side of it, because having enough passive income to sustain the lifestyle that we want. That's probably where we're heading.
Yeah, that seems like a great goal, because when you think about, having enough passive income to not do anything, that's not really what people want. But to not have to worry about it, that's a different way of looking at it, right? Because it still matters, but you just don't have to be so concerned about it like you are when you first start out.
Yeah, I found out probably 4 years ago. It was probably the Ferrari. So I went to the dealership, and I was like, I'm just gonna buy it. I'm over it. I said when I was 30, I'm buying the Ferrari. I'm gonna buy the Ferrari, and I still have the picture. It says something like, don't give up what you want most for what you want right now. Okay. And that's kind of what the quote said. And I said, I held the Ferrari key in my hand. I put the quote on my hand, and I took a picture, and I saved it because I said, when I do have it, I want to remember this moment. And I've had multiple opportunities since then. I don't know if I'll ever pull the trigger. I think I will, but I'm not sure. But that to me it's having the option. When I found this out, it wasn't about having the Ferrari. It wasn't about having the mansion. It wasn't about flying first class. It wasn't about fancy clothes or shoes, which I'm not even into anyway. It was having the option to have those things. The driving motivator was when I was told no, or you can't, right? You can't have a Ferrari, or you can't afford a Ferrari, or you can't fly first class, or you can't go to the Virgin Islands for 2 weeks because it costs too much money. Those driving motivators are why I work so hard, so that there is no. I do it if I want to, and if I don't, it's my decision. That was the big turning point for me. So it doesn't, for a lot of millionaires, you're not going to see a lot of flashy cars and clothes and houses. They'll do things here and there that most people, or that a lot of people can't, but they're hard to pick out. Most millionaires are hard to pick out from a normal person in a crowd. And I've learned this from all the private money that I deal with.
Yeah, that's so good. And that quote, man, I'm gonna have to remember that one, because
it's a good one.
Yeah, and it's something I think people think they understand, but don't actually replicate in their normal life. Because that, going back to your why of why you want to do something, I'm sure if you were to ask, a group of people, pick a bunch of random people, they would all have something of if they could, pay for their parents to do this, or pay their loans off, or buy their mom a car. Everyone has that why, but still they, whether it's going out on the weekends or whatever it is, where they're not doing the thing that would actually lead to that. So it's something that's people understand, but the now feels better. How do you think people get around that? Or do you think everyone should get around that?
That's really hard, because society, still there? Sorry, my audio did something weird for a second. Society programs us not worry about the future. The constantly that you can't go through a day without seeing probably 100 advertisements, right? So it's hard. It's, to me, and I used to be a nutrition and personal trainer coach. I used to coach. You cannot force people to do something that they haven't made their mind up that they're ready to do. Okay. You can help, you can nudge, you can suggest, you can plant the seed, but you cannot just walk up to somebody and change them, right? They have to almost have some type of existential thing happen to them, or see something they really want that motivates them more than what they want right now. And that's what happened to me. I mean, I always compare it, and it's not to pick on anybody, but it's the guy working at the Walmart at the greeter at the door that's 60 years old, right? And some may argue, well, maybe he wants to do that, or he or she. And I'm like, that's a tough argument. Maybe they want something to do, right? That's fair. That's a fair argument. And maybe they like just interacting with people. But I would guess that 95% of them need the paycheck still. Okay. And that's why I never wanted to be in that situation. Like I just explained to you, I just never want to be told what to do. I realized that quick. I had jobs growing up. I was an entrepreneur by the time I was 20, 21, but I worked at Burger King. I worked at Arby's. I worked at Dairy Queen. I washed dishes in the back. I worked at a golf course. I hated it. I got fired from every single job. Every single one of them I was fired because I did not like being told what to do. And like, I probably lost 2 jobs from this exact reason. Hey, all of us are going to Kings Dominion this weekend, John. Do you want to go? Like all of us is a theme park where I'm from. So everybody, we're all going. And I'm like, all 8, 9 of my friends are going, and I got to work for 4 hours washing dishes or work at Burger King for 6 hours. I'm just not going. I'm not missing that experience for $50. I'm not doing it. Right. And that's going to cost me the job, but they're a dime a dozen. I'll go get another one. Now, I don't like that employee type of mindset. I'll keep in mind I was 16, 17 years old. Wasn't the best mindset, but that's what made me realize that do not give me a schedule. Don't hand me a schedule. I don't want it. That was probably one of my biggest driving motivators.
Yeah, no, I completely relate to that. I mean, right now, I really like what I do. I'm a flight instructor, so flying planes to make money is really cool, but I still work a 9-to-5 job, and just the thought of them controlling if I have food on my plate, like that whole concept is just, I can't quite wrap my mind around it. And then the more I talk to people like you, like I'll have 3 of these conversations a week with just these highly successful people who have this different way of thinking. And that like completely rubs off on me. Like, and it just is making me realize more and more, it's just a mindset that's different. And it's almost like safer to think the other way when someone else cuts you a check every week and you don't have to take any risks to start your own business. But I think truly living life is doing what you're doing, where you go out on a limb and you start a business and it may or not fail. You kind of bet on yourself. I think everybody to some degree wants to work for themselves. Would you agree with that, or you have a different perspective?
Yes and no. The older I get, my wife is one of these people. When she's good at anything she does, right? So when she tries entrepreneurship, she's good at it, but her personality says there's nothing wrong with this. Her personality says, hey, I'm fine with not really the 9-to-5. She doesn't like that either, but she's fine with the schedule. She's fine with working for somebody else as long as she enjoys what she's doing, right? Okay. She's good at what she does. But I mean, she's not going to go work 9-to-5 at, like, I don't want to insult anybody, but she's not going to just go work 9-to-5 anywhere. Okay. Yeah. Should be something she's passionate about. So she's a nurse anesthetist, and she's went through a lot of school to do that. But I would say that the reason why it's not for everybody is you got to be able to, like, one, push yourself constantly, right? Because you're responsible for everything. Nobody's going to make your schedule. Nobody's going to make you call the customers. Nobody's going to make you go out and door knock. Nobody's going to make you get up at 7 in the morning if there's no alarm or no schedule for you. You have to do all that for yourself. And I want to say, can everybody do it? Yeah, I think everybody could give it a shot, but I think it takes a certain type of personality. And that's why I don't fault anybody who's not an entrepreneur or a multimillionaire, because I'm just extremely fortunate that I have this go personality that I can't sit still. I'm ADHD, and I use that to my advantage. Like, I juggle 50 things at once. Am I perfect at that? No. Do I get stressed out? Yes. Is it sometimes what do you call it? Like, when it's not a plus, it's like a,
catch 22 maybe, or no?
Yeah. Like a catch 22. Yeah. Like, it's not always fun for me. Right. Mm-hmm. Like, when things go bad, it's like, oh, okay, 50 things collapse instead of just one. So I'm highly stressed a lot of times, but I wouldn't trade that to go work 9-to-5 somewhere for really any amount of money. I mean, you push the number, right? If Nike needs a new CEO, we'll talk, right? So, but if the cards were on the table and you're like, hey, John, we'll give you this job. It's pretty much 9-to-5. You get your 2 weeks of vacation, 3 weeks of vacation, and you make $200,000 a year. Or you do what you're doing now and you only make 100. I don't even have to think. I don't even have to think about it. Like, I'm taking the 100 every single time, right? Because I also know the freedom that comes with the 100 that does not come with the 200. So yeah, I guess you could say that my net worth might double every year unless I'm super smarter with that 100 over that thing, but I got to sacrifice all that time. And that's not something I'm willing to do. And not at this point. So real quick, if you're new to watching this, at first you will sacrifice your time for money, and you need to. That's probably going to be a given. but you need to transition out of that or have a goal to transition out of that. If a 5, 10, 15-year goal, you need to transition out of that to where you're trading your money back for your time. But you do need to start that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And let's kind of keep going on that note, because I assume people, when they watch this, I mean, for me, that's why I'm doing it. I'm trying to learn as much as possible because, still at the beginning, there's all this distance to go. And it probably seems intimidating to someone that's new and listening to this and thinking like, oh, well, I'm right here. How could I get all the way to right here? So just as far as personal finance and investing and creating a life that you want, where does someone start with that? And then I kind of want to go to the real estate and where someone can start with that, but just overall, kind of where you were, if you were to give advice to somebody, what would that look like?
Here's the trick. So it doesn't stop. The feeling that you're having right now, maybe looking at me or somebody ahead of me or like me, we have that feeling about somebody ahead of us. And it never, I used to think it stops. Like a good example is like the million, becoming a millionaire. I thought that was it, right? I mean, when you're 18, that's the goal, and you hit. I still remember when I was like, I looked over at my wife, we're doing our net worth, and I was like, we're millionaires. Went on about it. There was no big celebration, no balloons fell from the ceiling. I didn't feel this different way. I just kept calculating. We tried to say it was cool, right? We said good job to each other, like we enjoyed it, but nothing what you would imagine. Because I just left lunch. I just had lunch on Thursday or Friday. Him and his wife are probably worth 100 million plus. Okay. They have businesses all over Europe, China, all over the United States. And then it's like, you aspire to that. You start aspiring for that. So you just got to catch yourself and realize that there's always going to be somebody. Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos battling back and forth. Oh, there's always going to be somebody with more money than you. And if they don't have more money than you, they'll have something more than you, either more freedom, a happier family, a better marriage, something, right? You're not going to have it all. So the plan is kind of stay in your own lane. What do you want? What do you think will make you happy? And I'm not the best at this. All right. I still keep pushing myself, but I can teach it. I'm a better teacher sometimes than I am a learner. Figure out what you want, sit down and get serious about that with you and your significant other, and work together to get to that. And now here's like I just said, when you get there, you'll want more, and that's fine, but get there first, then readjust your goals, and then educate yourself and start understanding to learn when you're not appreciating where you're at. Okay. So I'm working on this myself. It's like, if you would have told me I'm where I'm at 18, it's a done deal. I'm like, bet, I'll take that. I'm taking that life right there. I don't need nothing else. Well, here I am. And what am I doing? Building more businesses. And it's like, so I know it doesn't stop. So if you're going to start, the first thing you have to do is, one, get serious about what you want, right? Understand. And you need to have a map. And what the map is your goals. It's like, hey, I'm going to be rich. Okay, great. How are you going to do it? How are you going to do it? Because you can't just be rich. You're not going to just wake up, be rich. So how are you going to do it? So, and what's rich look like to you? Is it $1 million? Is it 1.2 million? Is it 8 million? Is it $100 million? What is the number? Write that number down, because rich is arbitrary. All right. I can hand somebody in India $200,000 and now they're rich. Right. So it's really depends what your goals are and not what everybody else's is. Because I mean, you're going to try to match goal for goal with Elon Musk. You can if you want to. I don't want that life personally.
Right. Yeah. Cause I mean, to do what that guy's doing, I mean, that's kind of an extreme example, but I don't know if that guy's not traveling to the Virgin Islands. I'm sure that guy has got something going on he probably schedules every 30 seconds of his day to work on his entire life.
All day, every day. And then imagine the amount of the weight on you.
Yeah.
Having thousands of employees and being the richest man in the world. And like everybody, you're going to have imagine, for every 100 people that you get that like you're going to get probably 2 to 5 haters. How many people hate on you all day, every day? And can you handle that? Do you want to be able to go out in public and everybody knows your name and you never get a break? Everybody's watching you all the time and assessing your every move. No, thanks. No, I'm good. I'd rather not.
Yeah. Kind of going back to what you were saying, do you think it's almost like some people have to get what they want to then realize what they need? Like they got to get to the point and then realize like, oh, okay, yeah, I am still motivated. Or do you think people can realize that ahead of time?
Yeah, well, they're going to realize it ahead of time because 98% of people listening to this have already bought things that they just want and did not need. Whether it can be as small as a pair of shoes, right, or the new Xbox or whatever. If it is not shelter, water, or food, or to keep clothes on you and your family's back, outside of that, you're getting into the want territory. Okay, so you need to figure out what you can shave back off of that to maintain a decent lifestyle. I'm not telling you to go live in a cardboard box. Okay. There's a difference between you have a choice to rent downtown in the brand new apartment that's $3,500 a month, or to kind of like live uptown a little bit and get a roommate and now spend $800 a month. Both of those provide shelter. Is one nicer than the other? Yes, but it's a want. You don't absolutely need that. My wife and I had roommates years into our marriage. Okay. So we were married, I think, for about a year and a half and still had roommates. Okay. Now that's not a sacrifice most are willing. We didn't have kids at the time. So that was another easy thing for us. But those are things we did. We always had roommates. My wife and I have been together almost 13 years. And we've always had roommates because that extra bedroom lets us save where we were from. That extra bedroom let us save $600 a month, or about $7,000 a year. $7,000 a year is a lot when you're 20, 21, yeah. Right? And so those are things that you can do. And that's just one thing. You don't need the new LeBrons. You know, I'm a huge LeBron fan, and I own one pair of LeBrons to this day. And I bought them for $80 off the Facebook marketplace because I refuse to spend $200 on a pair of shoes.
Yeah.
But that's like, most of you have your wants. You don't have, your needs are struggling because you have so many wants.
Right. Yeah. That's just a mindset shift. And then I think I mean, people can listen to this and hear that and it sounds great, but it's almost like you got to come to that realization on your own in some form or another.
Here's a quote I thought about to myself the other day. We were driving, it was last night actually. We were driving home and we were getting ready to order food out. We didn't for whatever reason. It wasn't financial or anything like that. We just didn't order food on the way home. I think my wife wasn't feeling great and I wasn't really hungry. But anyway, I was thinking to myself, I was like, man, we've actually been eating out quite a bit lately. And I was like, and I really haven't really thought about it that much because once she graduated nurse anesthetist school, you know, our income, and not bragging anyway, if you know me, I don't brag, but our income has reached a point where we don't have to nickel and dime, or really we track it just for fun now, but it would be really hard for us to kind of screw this up the way we normally live. Cause we're almost, we natural savers and natural investors, right? We just do it by like, it's second nature to us now because we've been doing it so long. But anyway, the quote to me was, because we used to never eat out. I said, never eat out so that one day you can always eat out. All right. And that's, I don't know how good of a quote that is, but it's true to us. Like we would never eat out. I mean, we would probably, before she graduated with her doctorate's degree, I want to say that if we ate out once a month, that'd be a lot. That would be a lot for us. All right. And that was from sacrifice. And thankfully my wife likes to cook, but we would have ate out more. We wanted to eat out more. We just calculated and we were like, what's the biggest expense for most people? Eating out for most people. So we packed our meals. She did all that. And that's one thing that she brings to the table in our partnership that helped us save a ton of money. And now if she wants to eat out, I just eat out. That's because we've earned that.
Yeah, no, that's
within reason, real quick. We didn't eat out once when we were just in St. John because it was $100 a person. And I won't do that. I don't know how much money I would have to have. I don't know if there's a amount before I pay $100 a plate.
Yeah, that's kind of ridiculous. Jeez, that must have been the bistro, or what kind of restaurant's that?
Yeah, it was almost all of them. I mean, we looked up at probably 4 or 5. St. John's is really expensive anyway, but all of their restaurants now they got really good reviews and all that. But it's like before you get out of there for a couple, and we have our daughter with us. Before you get out of there, you're at $150. I was like, I can't do it.
Yeah, that's crazy. I talked to I interviewed another guy. His name was Michael Barayev. He's a sales guy. He started a couple of businesses, but that was something he was saying was eating out. It would be like a luxury to go to McDonald's when he was a kid. And now every day he eats out just out of spite from his previous life.
I like it. And again, what is it for you? My wife and I aren't foodies. We also don't drink. So those things, we're good with whatever, like we like good food, but it does not have to be $100 or super fancy for us. And in fact, the more the meal costs, the less I'm going to enjoy it personally. So, give me some street tacos. I'm down with that. But what is it that you want? So for us, it's travel. It was travel. That's where we spend our money. So I think St. John and U.S. Virgin Islands, St. Thomas, we did that for almost 2 weeks. I think that cost us almost $9,000. And that's not a vacation we would have taken probably 5-10 years ago. We would do the $3,000 Caribbean thing. But now we want to see these islands. We want to see more places, and we just spend the money because that was the intentional reason for saving and for investing, is so we could travel where we wanted to, when we wanted to. And so we do it.
That's great. Where do you guys want to travel next? Like, do you have a plan if you want to go to these amount of places?
Yeah, so we want our daughter. So I'm not sure. We're in the process of adopting. Our little girl's 2.5 years old.
Well, that's awesome.
We're in the process of adopting her. But I think a personal goal I've set for mine. My wife, I think, obviously on board. We'd like to have her see 50 countries before she's 18.
Oh wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, so that would be like a really cool goal. My wife and I have personally seen probably 17 or 18 now. So that would add to our total, because we would like to get to the 100 mark before we would ever hang it up. Or I don't think we'll ever stop traveling. I think maybe 100 is just an arbitrary goal.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that would be a cool goal for us. And we really want her to be well traveled, because I personally believe the more well traveled you are, the more open-minded you are.
Yeah, for sure. Right. Because you get to experience all these different perspectives and cultures, and there's a lot of nuance to seeing the rest of the world.
Yeah. Saying third world country and actually seeing or staying in a third world country gives you a whole different perspective.
Oh yeah. Yeah. What's the coolest place you've been to? If you could pick
one. I got to say Maldives. It's where my wife and I got married. So that's it's hard to pick anything after that. I mean, Santorini, Greece was beautiful. Istanbul was cool. And then Mallorca in Spain, the water there.
I've been there.
Yeah. Have you been? It's beautiful,
yeah.
Right? Uh-huh. So it's hard to pick one. The Dolomites in Italy. Have you seen?
Okay. No,
it was out of a freaking movie or a book. In fact, I think it was it's a little bit of an older movie for even me and you, but I think it's like I can't even think of the name of it, but it was filmed there. It was like a musical or something, but it was just like you step out of your car and like the mountains. It's insane. It's really crazy.
Jeez, I'll have to add that to the list. So you've done really well in real estate, and it says on your Instagram you've done over 150 fix and flips. Is that
correct?
Where you spend a lot of energy right now, or how does real estate work for you, and when did you start getting into that seriously?
Yeah, so about going on 5 years ago, I met up with my partners, Andrew and Steve. They had already flipped maybe 15 or 20 houses, something like that. So that's not even included in that figure. And they needed somebody that was good at finances and organization. And I needed somebody who knew how to flip houses. And so Rhiannon and I had some money. That's not why they brought us in. In fact, I used to not tell anybody we had any money, but I knew I wanted to get started in real estate. So I went to shadow these guys one day, and it's the craziest story ever. I go to shadow them. It was like March 1st of maybe 2017, 2016, maybe. One of those dates, almost 5 years ago. And I went in on the 1st and I never left. And you fast forward like maybe 3 or 4 months from there, and we're partners. I'm part of the company, and we rocked and rolled since then. So not all smooth. It wasn't all, rainbows. My partner, Steve, and I didn't get along. We did outside of business, but we were hitting heads on almost everything. So it took about a year and a half for us to figure our stuff out. We were still cranking houses during then, but if everybody's on the same page, it's better. And so that's what we had to get to. And we got to that point, and, we're like family now. And we're partners, right? We're like roommates, brothers. We're going to fight. We're going to argue, but nothing to the extent of how it started. And we've, out of the 100, it's closer probably now to 165, 170. And out of those, maybe 15 or so are wholesales. So it's legitimately, we've flipped that many homes, and we work with private investors. My wife and I being one of them, but we have about 10 other private investors that we cycle their money around. They wire us the money, we flip the house, and we pay them 10% annualized on their investment if they're a new investor. And then my wife and I and one other investor that kind of started with us from the very beginning gets 1/3 profit share. So a little bit better as long as the house goes well.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I think the perspective or the thought when people hear fix and flip is that you buy a property with your own money, you do all the repairs, and you sell it for more, right? But isn't it more common to use other people's money, people that are actually doing fix and flips? Would you say that's the case?
I would say it's more common for anybody doing any type of numbers, any type of like, more than one. I mean, you can do one if you got your own money, unless you got a ton of money sitting around and a ton of time, because most people that I would say that most people that flip with their own money probably do it part-time. I have like friends that do this stuff. I invest with them, but even them, they're using my money. So they use other people's money. So yeah, I mean, it's probably more common, and you probably should use other people's money when you can. Use your money for the rehab or the carrying cost or for any emergencies, and use other people's money, because if you do a flip the right way, paying 10% interest on money is relatively cheap, especially if it's private money, because it comes so quickly. Now, hard money gets up in the 12% with points and stuff like that. And then banks are going to be your cheapest, but both of those guys are hard to work with. Where private money, once you establish a relationship, our biggest investor, the guy that we met with at lunch the other day, he doesn't even look at the houses anymore. We sent an email, we got cash the next day, and he probably carries 15 to 25 houses at a time with us, and he just wires the money.
Wow. Yeah. So for people that don't understand, kind of explain what a private lender is. It's different from a bank, right? Well, how would you define a private lender?
Yeah. So private lender is like is somebody you actually know personally, and it's their money that's using. So because hard money likes to disguise themselves as private money, and they're not. So you got almost three types of lenders. I think that's really all you got, unless you think of another one. But you got the banks. They're the cheapest and hardest to work with, most time consuming, most paperwork, diligence. It's a lot. Okay. Getting approved, especially if you're a small business. Next, you're going to have, I'll do this one next. I'll do hard money, which is going to be your most expensive option. And then it's much faster than banks. So, they quickly evaluate you. Maybe they look at your taxes, they look at your credit score, and then they're going to wire your money, but they're going to wire it in draws, and they're going to do inspections. And it's a process, but it's better than nothing. And how most people start out, because they have a proven track record to come somebody like me, who's a private lender. So I'm a private money. I mean, it's my own money. Hard money uses a bunch of other people's money and piles it together inside of their firm, and then loans it out. A private lender, it's my own money. And the reason why you want to work with me is because once you establish a relationship with me, you send me an email. I know you've paid me back 1 or 2 times already. You're good with your communication, the biggest one, communication. Once you're good with your communication and you pay me back what you said you're going to do, did what you said you're going to do, let's move. I want you to keep moving. Take my money as fast as you can, because you're putting it to work for me, which is exactly what passive is. So that's exactly what we do for our biggest investor. He can't get enough money into our company because we do what we say we're going to do. We've always paid him and his wife back on time, as we said we're going to do, with updates and communication. Take them to lunch all the time just to keep a relationship going. And that's what you want to do. And private money is probably the best. It's unless you got deep pockets and a lot of history and business to deal with the banks, private money is going to be your bet.
Mm-hmm. And it probably would be more common to start with hard money, but if you're new and you kind of do some studying and you got mom and dad got some heavy pockets, that could be a private lender. Grandma and grandpa, right? That's kind of the same thing.
There is billions and billions of dollars sitting around in savings accounts, billions. Okay. And let's not even talk about IRAs and self-directed IRAs. There's billions of dollars there, maybe trillions of dollars sitting there. That is maybe, if they're not even investing anything other than bonds. So they're making, or CDs or something like that, they're making 2%. You come to them and say, hey, I'll put your money to work for 10%. Yeah, that's 10x, 8x what I'm making now. Please do. And now you got to establish a track record or some type of trust. That's why mommy and daddy, if they got it, they should already trust you, right? And then a deed of trust, and you learn this stuff, you get protected. So if somebody, I loan outside the company too. I'm funding, I think 2 houses. It'll be 3 soon with my friend Mikey, but I'm funding 3 houses outside of the company. It makes me worry a little bit more because I don't have control over it like I do in the company, but I get a deed of trust. I get a promissory note, and I know these people, and they've already paid me back before. And my thing is, would you live in a tent in order to pay me back? And if I think that you'll do that, I'll lend you money. But I got to know that about you, right? If your track record is, I foreclosed on this and I foreclosed on that, and I didn't pay this back, I'm out. I don't want to play that game. No offense. I got to be protective of my money and my family's money. So yeah, that's kind of what you want to do. And if you got mommy and daddy or an uncle or a grandma, put their money to work.
Right. Yeah. And I like the private lending honor system better than the bank, because you can tell more accurately based on how well you know someone rather than their debt to income ratio. I mean, those are maybe our indicators, but that's just some checklist that the bank has to go through to tell you if you can own a home or not.
I've probably loaned in the cycle, not at a time, but Ryan and I have probably loaned over $3-4 million now.
Wow.
I've never seen his credit score. I've never seen a credit score. I've never seen a debt to income sheet. Right? I don't look at these things. I evaluate my friend Jim, who hosts a podcast, mastermind as well through Daniel. It's called the Inner Circle. They evaluate the person first and then the profit. Okay. So if it's, oh, you're gonna make 30% return. Oh, that sounds great. But who's telling me that? Right. So evaluate the person first and then the profit. Because I will take a 10% return with somebody that I know that I've done 3 or 4 flips with before versus a 20% return of somebody brand new. I'll do it every time.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Well, one of the things that I want to ask about before I run out of time here is the actual like nitty gritty process of doing fix and flips. Because I've talked to a lot of people that do flips, but it's always just kind of, okay, yeah, that's something that you do and seems like it works well. How do you actually analyze a property to see if it's going to be a good flip? Are you looking for cosmetic things? What things do you watch out for? And how does that process work getting it to the finish line?
So this is exactly why I partnered. I can do it now. I've been around it enough that I could evaluate a property. But my partner Steve, he's the GC. He has a general contractor's license, and he's the reason for that partnership. He runs the contracting side. So when we get a deal into the company, we all three as partners go out there, we evaluate it. I'm evaluating it financially. Andrew's there to evaluate the comps and what things have sold for recently, what he thinks we can get for it. And Steve's evaluating the property. And then we vote on it. We all throw our hat in the ring, give our opinion, and then we vote, and a 2/3 vote wins it. But yeah, we're evaluating everything. Location first, always location. And then after location, what's our exit strategy? Is it a flip? Is it a rent to own? Is it a rental? Are we going to wholesale it? Are we going to partner with this thing with the original owner? Like we figure out that, and then the numbers, and then Steve obviously puts a full budget together in a software we use called Rehab Evaluator, not Evaluator, but Evaluator. There's a link in my YouTube or something if you want a free 30-day trial. Excellent software, best one we've ever used. And I'm friends with the owner, Daniel. We've been using it for 3 years now. And it calculates it gives you a line item for everything, so you can't mess anything. And then it puts together a whole pitch for you, for a private investor, for a bank, and lets you put in pictures in and gives you your ROI and does a pie graph. It's fantastic. And then when we see all the numbers, then that's when I kind of throw my hat in the ring and say, guys, this is worth our time, or it's not, or these are the resources that we don't have available or do have available. Let's go for it, or let's pass on this one. And that's kind of how we do it.
Nice. Seems like it's an effective way to get started, is partner up with someone that kind of fills in the gaps, Yep. If someone were to ask you like, hey, Jon, how do I get started in real estate, as broad of a topic as that is, what would you tell them?
It's the same advice every time. Get around the people that are doing exactly what you want to do. Don't even hesitate. As soon as you listen to this podcast, go on meetup.com and just type in real estate, REIN, REIA, REI, any of these, meetups.com. Go to them in your cities. Take a business card with you, put your name on it. Say, I'm here to learn. That's all you got to put on there. Pass that thing out to people. Tell them you want to help, you want to shadow them, and get around these people as soon as possible. And then probably start off wholesaling. Wholesaling is probably the easiest way to get your foot in the door into real estate. I have a whole YouTube thing on that, video on that as well. So just get into wholesaling. That's going to get you it's going to actually do more for you than just put some capital in your pocket. But it's going to get you in the network, because who you wholesale to have deep pockets usually. And that's the people you want to get around and partner with. And that's how I would go about it. And then once you have enough capital and network build up, move into flips, move into rentals, move into bigger deals, move into commercial and multifamily, and go up from there, or whatever your goal is. If some people's goal is to flip one house a year just for some side income, that's fine too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I can speak to that a little bit too. I read a book. It was about this guy who paid all of his student loans by making rental properties. And he said, join your local REIA group. And so I went on, I joined Azria, Arizona, and I met this guy named Alan. He kind of runs the group, and I was just always picking his brain. We do calls, and I'm trying to learn as much as possible. And then he sees that I'm trying to, help myself. So he offers that I can find properties for him in Indiana where he buys. So now I have a list of properties that he's giving me, and an investor that I'm finding the properties for. And just from being in one of those groups, it's like by accident, things like that happen if you're just around those people.
Yeah, it's a little bit of luck. I wouldn't know if I would say accident. You went on purpose. But
right.
What's Zig Ziglar? It's when luck meets preparation is when everything happens, right? You were prepared because you went to the meeting and you've been researching, you've been doing it, and then the luck came along. Because otherwise, if you met, what was his name, Alan?
Yeah.
If you just met Alan on the street, not in the RIA group, this relationship probably doesn't happen, right? Mm-hmm. Because he doesn't know what you're doing, or you don't know what he's doing, and you're not even trying to do it, right? So you were preparing by going to these groups and stuff, preparing yourself for when that luck came along. Luck has to be factored in. I mean, Elon Musk has to factor luck in, right? That he's born in this era, right? So luck does play a part, but you got to put yourself in the position to receive that luck.
That's awesome. Yeah, I agree. Kind of bringing things towards an end here. There's a few questions I always like to ask. What's a book you would recommend someone to read?
Let's go with the saving book. Let's go with Richest Man in Babylon. Teaches you how to save your money and pay yourself first.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard of that one. I haven't got around to reading it, but I've heard that's a good one. Okay. And then a couple more. What would be the biggest factor keeping people from taking all these steps? Is there something you see that people always have in common when they're not doing things that are towards their dreams?
The lie to themselves that the time's not right. I'm not ready right now, or whatever, or next week once I read this book, or what. Nope. Go to the groups, go to the meetups, get around the people right now, and that will motivate you every step. I just tell us, like same thing with saving. We just had this talk. So my wife and I run a group called More Than Money. It's basically a mastermind through Discord. And one of the members in there was like, I opened the Vanguard account, but I just can't put the money in there yet. I'm hesitating because it's, $500 is a lot of money. And I got to calculate this. And I said, put something in there, put $100 in there then. Just put $100 in there, because what that does is, one, it shows you the process of how to contribute, and you master that. And now it becomes easier, right? Because now you see it grow. But if you keep saying, well, I'm just going to wait until I deposit, or I'm just going to wait till I read that book, or I'm just going to wait till I go to that meeting until something happens, then that's going to be your story for too long. So just jump out there, right? Was it a podcast? Start a podcast, a YouTube channel. I would say the biggest thing is just people lying to themselves that they're not ready right now.
Yeah, I agree.
None of us are.
Right. And then lastly, because this is the Get Wealth podcast, what's your definition of wealth?
When you have enough health, money, and happiness, and you can sustain those things without having to sacrifice what you really want. I think that would probably be it in a roundabout way. I was kind of off sleeve there. I didn't really have an answer for it, but that's kind of what most people would just say money or give some type of money answer, but really your health, if you don't, you can have all the money you want, but if your health isn't great, so take care of yourself, take care of your money, body and mind, just as important, if not more so. And then keep working your way to have that financial freedom number. And what that is just how much money do you have to have invested or working for you to give you enough income every single month or every single year so that you can sustain the lifestyle that will make you happy. And if that changes, that's fine, but you need to start somewhere. So just define that and work towards that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, Jon, I really appreciate you coming on the podcast. I think absolutely packed it full every minute with value and information that people can take today and apply to their life immediately. So I appreciate all the insight and you being willing to share, because I know some people like to keep to themselves and it's almost like a secret, but I find that the more successful people are, the more willing they are to give back. And I think you're definitely an example of that. So I
can't wait to share. I love teaching others and helping other people. And I don't get paid for this, right? You
Right.
didn't give me any money for this. I just like getting on here and talking with people. And if it just helps you, if nobody else watches this podcast, if you don't even upload it, but it helps you in some way, I get excitement and joy out of that. So that's why I do them. And I want to continue to do so at a bigger audiences in more places. And so, there's a perfect example right here, right? This is, let's be real. You're not the Bigger Pockets podcast, right?
Right. Nope. 100 subscribers.
But guess how I eventually get on the Bigger Pockets podcast. I keep doing podcasts and I keep talking to more people. And then who knows, maybe one person sees this that has a connection to Bigger Pockets. Not saying I did that for this reason. No, absolutely not. You never know. So you got to start small, and everybody does on everything, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's exactly what this is. You got 100 subscribers right now. I had 100 subscribers on YouTube at one time, and that's how, and it starts growing as long as you're consistent.
That's awesome. Is there websites, YouTube, things you want people to find you at? How can people get more of your content?
Yeah, follow me on Instagram at The Frugal Investor. Follow me on YouTube at Jon Schoeller, Jon, not HN. Just hit 16,000 subscribers, by the way. So it's kind of growing on there. And then you can find us on Patreon at More Than Money. If you want to join my wife and I's group, where we have weekly live calls teaching people about financial freedom and building wealth and investing in real estate. And we love more people on there. We keep going above and below 200 members, but we're hovering right there for right now. We're not doing any advertising really, other than through our social media. But we hope to start growing that soon and focusing on that because we really enjoy it.
Beautiful. Jon Schoeller, everybody. Get wealthy.
Thanks for having me on.
Cool.